Hello and welcome to this tutorial on how to applique with your embroidery machine. Today I'm going to do a darling mitten block. You can find the steps on doing this on page 14 of the Kimberbell's Cup of Cheer book. There are basically 3 steps to any machine embroidery applique project. First, you're going to do what we call a placement stitch. Second, a tack-down stitch, and finally, a finishing stitch, such as a satin or a decorative stitch. Let me show you how easy this is. As you can see, I have already hooped my light mesh cutaway stabilizer and stitched my background quilting in the hoop. So now I'm ready for the applique. Now, if you're new to Kimberbell's method of background quilting on your embroidery machine, please refer to the video called How to Do Background Quilting with Your Embroidery Machine. I'm now ready to applique my mitten. First, I'm going to stitch the mitten placement outline. As the name entails, this shows me exactly where to place my fabric. I just want to make sure that it's larger than the outline itself. Next, I place my fabric with the right side facing up. To prevent my fabric from shifting, I'm going to use a little bit of Kimberbell paper tape to hold it in place. Next, I'm going to stitch the tack-down line. This is going to go around 2 times just to keep the fabric nice and secure. Remove the hoop from the machine and place it on a flat surface to carefully cut away the extra fabric. I'm using Kimberbell's duckbill scissors to get a very close, clean cut. Now, before I go into that 3rd step of a finishing stitch that we talked about earlier, I'm going to follow the directions as outlined on page 14 of the Cup of Cheer book and stitch the placement outline for the cuff. Place the cuff fabric right side up and then stitch the cuff tack-down line. Remove the hoop from the machine and trim away your extra fabric. In this mitten design, there's a series of detail stitches, so let's go ahead and do that next. Following step 5, I'm going to stitch the mitten wavy detail. This color box here is what we refer to as a color stop, meaning that if you want to change your thread colors, the machine will stop in between those steps. And although we give you a color recommendation, you certainly can choose any color you wish. That's just one of the many reasons why I love machine embroidery and why it's so fun. Next, I'm going to switch my thread to white and stitch the star detail. Even though there's a color stop here, I'm going to keep the white color there for my next step, which is the mitten dot detail. All right, there we go. Now, before I go on to doing the rest of the applique of this mitten, I actually want to show you how we use 2 of Kimberbell's tools in our tool set to cut these little jump stitches very quickly and easily. Oftentimes our machines will cut them for us, but if the design is too close, as in these dots are really close to each other, there will be a little jump stitch, a tiny little one, and we want to make sure those are clipped nice and tight. So I'm going to choose 2 of our tools from this set. I'm actually going to use our tweezers and what we call our micro tip scissors. All right. Both of them are really sharp, and I love the tweezer set because you're going to have it sharp all the way up to this tapered point here. But the thing that really sets this tool from anything else that exists out there is that it's actually got a blade on all 4 sides of this tool. So what that means is I can use the very tip of these tweezers, slide it underneath my jump stitch, and just continue the process of sliding it where the blade will now cut the stitch. All right, so let me show you an example here. I'm just going to place this underneath the jump stitch, and I'm going to continue moving it forward, and the blade just snips it right there. Now you don't see the jump stitch, it cuts it on one side, but we have this little tail on the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to lift that tail with now the tweezer portion of the tool, okay, and grab a hold of it. It's not moving anywhere. It's got a nice tight grip on the string, on the thread. And now I'm going to use the Kimberbell micro tips to just slide it right underneath there and clip. And look at that. You don't even see that there was ever a jump stitch between those 2 circle dots. I'm going to just slide it under the next, and again, because you've got the blade on all 4 sides, it's just going to snap it right there without any kind of issues. Now, to get the other side where the tail exists, that's when I'm going to use the tweezer portion to grab hold and hold tight of that thread. And then, like I said, use the micro tip scissors, which are really sharp right up to the very tip, to slide underneath there and clip. And clip. And clip. There we go. You guys, this is so much fun. I actually look forward, I know it sounds crazy, but I actually look forward to clipping jump stitches now, just based on how easy these two tools are. Here's another one right here. Once again, as you can see, I'm just sliding this right underneath. I'm going to continue the process of just sliding it forward, and it will snip it. It's now time to do that finishing outline on the mitten. So I'm going to switch to the red thread and complete that beautiful satin stitch. And then finally, I'm going to switch my thread to green and do the cuff satin outline. There you have it. Isn't the applique beautiful? And it's so easy too. Now, before I end this tutorial, I'm going to take it one step further, because on this particular block from the Kimberbell Cup of Cheer project, it actually has you stitch one more step called the trimming guides. This will not be shown in the final project, but it serves as a guide for when you go to square up this particular block for the Kimberbell Cup of Cheer quilt. So let's go ahead and stitch those. Now just carefully remove the project from the hoop, and with my 4.5 by 6.5 inch orange fob ruler, I'm going to match up the inner edges of the ruler to my trimming guides and cut. Let's take a look at the finished block in the Cup of Cheer quilt. Congratulations, you just finished a darling applique.